Hi, I'm Toni-Leslie James. I'm the costume designer for Amazing Grace, and you're watching the ball scene. The ball scene is set in the 18th century. I always start with sourcing and swatching patterns in the period before I start drawing. I call it solving the puzzle. I'm a great fan of mystery, so it's the mystery of what the scene and the costumes are going to be as they're being creative. So when I have all of these fabrics and the buttons and the trims and all my research together, and that's when I put everything on paper. One of the biggest challenges in creating the detail is there are 6 women and there are 10 men in the ball. I ended up with a large studio that was like 20 by 15, and every surface of it was covered. And at one time I was surrounded by so much fabric, I just looked around and had a little cry. And then we bought 2 of the rolling laundry baskets and just threw everything in them and hid them in the closet. And then I started with more fabrics. But because the period is so intricate, a lot of silk taffetas, silk satins, silk damask in men and women's costumes. It's basically finding the fabric and the scale to recreate the costume, because the scale of the 18th century, and we're in early 18th century, is really completely different from the scale of costumes from the late 18th century. So knowing and towing that fine line that we wouldn't be too overboard, but it's a ball. So it's also, you're trying to create individuality. You don't want it to just be, a gown out there. There's some individuality within the costume, so you're trying to also give the women and the men who are wearing the costumes, you're trying to give them personality when you're designing this. It's just like, it's a fantastic period. Of course, during this period, the French were completely more over the top than the English. Basically, it wasn't until we got to the 19th century where men's clothing stopped competing with women's clothing. So anytime, every costume designer is grateful to work in the 18th century, and this is the first 18th century production that I've done, so it's just been a ball. I really appreciate the opportunity.